Hi, I'm Danica Tormolen with TSNN, and I'm joined by Kai Hattendorf and Martha Donato with UFI, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the UFI Global Barometer that just came out. And then also, Kai is going to kick us off and start with a little bit of a review of the CEO Summit that was just held in Amsterdam recently.
Thank you, Danica, and glad to be doing this and hope we get this series off to a good start. Now, certainly we got the year off to a good start at UFI with our first event, which is always the Global CEO Summit. It's a by invitation only event for the CEOs and COOs and CFOs and CMOs of the industry from around the world. And we always host it in Europe, and we had folks from 35 countries coming to Amsterdam in late January. And Martha, you were there as well. And I think it's fair to say that there was a lot of energy in the room and a lot of optimism as we head into 2024. Kudos and thanks to Herve Sedky, who was our chair for the event this year, and to our president, Geoff Dickinson, because they basically asked us to turn the program around and move from a conversation within our industry about trends to talking and learning from other industries about similar issues. So we were tackling some of the top issues that we have on our UFI's 5 Trends to Watch list, the sustainability in the industry. And we had a speaker from food and beverage telling us how they tackle that issue, the evolution of the business model. And we had a speaker from retail because they're going through that same conversation about how their business is changing and how they have rebuilt after the pandemic. And finally, on industry positioning and finding and retaining talent, we turn to logistics, another sector nobody really plans a career in and people fall into. And it was super insightful to get these leaders from other industries interacting with our industry. And I think we took a lot from that, Martha, didn't we, for the ongoing conversations this year?
Yes, Kai, I totally agree. There was a really wonderful buzz of energy throughout the room, and not just in the sessions, although those were very impactful, as Kai just laid out. But in addition, there's at the CEO Summit, which, by the way, was my first time attending, and I found it magical. The amount of time that's built into the program for networking is unlike most other industry meetings or meetings in general. There was a lot of movement. You could move from one group to the next, and because everyone was there for the same reason, which was to share information, to collaborate, to talk about challenges and opportunities, it just lent to a really high level discussion and like a buzz that just was electric throughout the whole program, into the dinners in the evening. And I was very grateful to be in the room.
Freeman was hosting the late night gathering at the bar, and they had trouble getting people to bed. Yeah, that's always a good sign in our industry.
Indeed.
Yes, I have always wanted to go to that event. Someday maybe I will get invited. I can't go as press, obviously, but that's interesting to hear, Martha, for the first time. Some of our audience may not realize, so UFI formed a North American chapter in December and announced that, and Martha is leading it. And so tell us a little bit about the North American contingent who was there besides Herve.
Sure, I can speak to that. There was a really nice group. There were about a dozen of us there. Mary Larkin, Paul Miller, Liz Irving, Mike Carlucci, Steve Walker. There was myself, Marty Glynn, John Schreiber. There was a really nice group of us who were there and representing all different segments, right? Because we had some show organizers. We had Steve from MGM representing the venue, and John Schreiber representing LVCVA, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. So it was a really well-rounded group. Oh, God help me that I leave out Laura Purdy. Laura is our chair of the North American chapter, and Laura runs the exhibition place in Toronto. So we had a nice blend of attendees, and everyone who went, with whom I've spoken post-event, really found it valuable to be there.
I like what you said, Kai, about getting some speakers from outside the industry to kind of reflect and lessons we can learn from retail, logistics, etc. So your big takeaway was what from those speakers?
I I think the big takeaway for everyone in the room was that while these sectors are different, they're also similar. And there are more similarities than we were aware of. And we have more common challenges. And so the feedback afterwards was really that we left motivated to explore this further and seek more dialogue and more exchange with colleagues from other industries. Frankly, the out-of-industry speakers are rated higher than the industry speakers. So here's a challenge to all our peers from within the industry. We got to up our game on stage at our industry events when compared to colleagues from other sectors.
So speakers from outside the industry got higher marks. So, could be a trend and something to look at for other industry events as well.
We're certainly going to look at that for our Congress in Cologne and for the regional events leading up to that, yes.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to take a step back. I should have said this at the top of the interview. We're going to be doing a monthly review with UFI to look globally across the world and see what's happening in each of the different regions in the exhibition industry. We're starting out this month with Kai and Martha, and we're going to talk about the UFI Global Barometer now. We're going to start this one by talking about overall trends and some of the big highlights. We did run a story already on TSNN with a recap, and we'll include a link to that in our show notes and also to the full UFI Barometer as well. But I wanted Kai to give some insight globally, and then Martha will delve deeper for our mostly North American audience. So Kai, I'll let you kick it off.
So let's dig into this. We launched that barometer, of course, at the GCS. And we brought, I think, dozens of prints, and they were gone, and we didn't have enough for everybody. So apologies, but we sent soft copies and digital copies right afterwards. So for those who haven't read your story yet, shame on them on TSNN about the barometer. It is our flagship research. We do that twice a year globally. We ask our industry, how are we doing and how do we see the future shaping up? So it really is a measurement of the pulse of the industry that we do every 6 months. It's really become key data. We've been doing this since 2008, so it precedes Martha and me being in our positions and being at UFI for sure. It's key data for the industry, for investors. They're literally waiting on it because it gives this global insight. And not only does it give us global headline figures that we're going to delve into, you can also break that down into North American data that Martha will tackle and into countries. We cover 19 specific markets with the data. So you can compare, and we will do that, the US data with the North American regional data, and again with the global trends to see how a market, how a region is doing. So basically, and on a global level, and that's my job here, dialing in from Europe, on average, boy, this year will be the best year ever for our industry, period. We're expecting a global average growth on revenue of 15%. And that's not us, UFI, putting our finger in the air and making an estimated guess. This is hundreds of businesses around the world reporting their expectations into this research. So we came out in 2023, more or less level par with our best year ever, 2019. 6 months ago, we said we left the pandemic in the rearview mirror. Now we only refer to it as we had a little pandemic slump, and that's behind. We're past that speed bump. It's full speed ahead. And right now, the global trajectory is up and significantly faster up than inflation may bring us down in parallel. So it's real, tangible growth. That means that we create jobs. 52% of all industry businesses around the world are expanding their staff base, are adding new positions, are bringing in additional talent, not just filling positions that we had to refill after the pandemic, but adding new jobs for the industry. An amazing number. We are really right now probably the biggest comeback story of all industry sectors. And finally, and thirdly, generative AI. We started tracking that for the first time last summer. How many businesses consider this relevant? It was 80+%. By now it's common sense. 90+% of all businesses around the world say generative AI is here to stay, and they're expecting it to be adapted in our bloodstream and our workflows. And more than 1/3 of businesses all around the world are already using generative AI, especially around marketing and sales and customer relations, and for research and development. And leading on that, when it comes to marketing and research and the adaptation of generative AI, is guess which market, Martha? The US.
Yes, that's right.
That is so exciting. When I think back on 2020 and COVID, it is really amazing to me that we are at this point where we're at, that we're going to be growing so much in 2024. And you're right. I think it is the rebound story of all industries, really, especially we were coming from zero in 2020. So to be knocked down to nothing and to have that kind of growth, I don't think anybody would have predicted it when we were first coming out of it. But your data is really helpful. I use it all the time. I used it when I was interviewing last week Mike Champion from Tahaluf about Saudi Arabia. And some of those countries are going to even exceed some of the numbers, the averages that you were talking about. So it is really helpful by region to break it out and look at not only, you know, the stats and numbers, but some of the trends on AI, like you were talking about, and some of the challenges. So I really encourage anybody who's in the trade show industry to check it out, because you'll find some really valuable data there. So thanks, Kai, for that quick summary of what's going on around the globe with that. And we look forward to the next one when it comes out. When? The next
Well, the summer edition will come out in July, late July, early August. We always do the winter edition, late January, early February, and the summer edition in July, August.
Yeah. Martha, tell me from your perspective, hone in on some of those North American numbers, since our audience is mostly North American. So what stood out to you?
Sure. I think if we could just back up for a minute and lend a little bit more context to what you said before, Danica, that UFI just established the North American chapter in December of 2023. So we're still in our baby stage, in our infant stage here. And so one important note is that the North American chapter includes Canada, the US, and Mexico. And you'll note when you look at the barometer that the United States is heartily represented, and Mexico has a significant contribution to the report. So we'll stick with those two. Canada was not as well represented, and that has no bearing on what I'm about to say. Just to lend context to what the region actually is about. And Kai mentioned creating jobs. And I think one of the critical features that jumped out to me on the United States report was that 57% of companies are planning to hire. And so that is going to create a really good opportunity for a lot of people to jump back in. You know, we just mentioned the pandemic, a lot of people left for other opportunities because we were closed down, and they'll be able to come back in. And so that's really good momentum for us here in the US. There is a great deal of optimism in those numbers for what's happening here in the US. And I would say the Mexico numbers are cautiously optimistic. You know, they're not nearly as bullish as the US, but I'm not sure any other market is either. If you take the full global view, as Kai just said, I'd say the US is on pace in most sectors with the rest of the world, maybe a little bit ahead in some areas. One, of course, being AI, as Kai just mentioned as well. You know, generative AI is here to stay for us in the US, and I'm sure that will seep through the entire global industry.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up to that. So you both just talked about the fact that the industry is hiring, which is great news across the board. But at the same time, we are having talent issues, right? Getting people to join the industry, be aware of the industry and all that it has to offer. So talk a little bit about that issue and how it's being addressed. So did you hear anything creative at the CEO Summit to address those issues? I'll let Kai, you start.
It is a little bit complicated to give a global answer to this and an international answer, because every market is different. The career models are different. And the way you reach young talent in high school or colleges is different. Now, you know, we have around 17 national and international associations as members in UFI. And how to attract talent, how to sell the industry to this next generation is an issue we are regularly debating with them. We have a few best practices up on our new UFI advocacy portal, ufi.org/advocacy. There's a whole section around talent. And I would encourage everyone to have a look at that. We are sharing that material, for instance, in the US with the new industry collective, with ECA, IAE, EDPA, ESCA, IAVM, CISO, and I hope I didn't forget anyone. And as we are a member of ECA, we are indirectly in that collaboration as well. We just had a number of calls saying we're happy to support what they're doing on industry awareness work. Ultimately, all this work always has to be national, regional, or local. What we can do as UFI, and what we have done for the last 2 years, is work on a new narrative to turn this perceived weakness that you fall into this industry into the superpower that it really is. We all Marvel superheroes. We all bring very specific talents into this industry. And the resilience we've seen in this industry comes from exactly that. That is, takes people as different as you, Danica, and Martha, and myself, with all our different backgrounds, and all these tens of thousands of colleagues who come from all kinds of different professions, have all kinds of different individual backgrounds. And together, that makes this superpower, superforce that we are as the exhibition industry. And if we sell this in a proactive way, if you're looking for a purposeful job, if you want to have a space where you can grow, if you want to have a space where you can connect with people who are different, but share a passion. If you want to, I don't know, if you're a Swiftie and you want to build Taylor Stage, this is the industry for you, right? If you want to go to a conference about sports merchandise because you like the Chiefs, this is the industry for you. If you want to build trade shows, it's the industry for you. There's so much purpose. There's purpose beyond purpose in our sector, and that's what many people are looking for. So we build a narrative together with major organizers and the next generation leaders at UFI that we share with the industry. That's our global share of the work, but the activation indeed has to happen on the local level.
Local. Yes, agreed. Thanks for sharing those resources. I just wanted to get your kind of take since you do see it globally. And I think you're right. There's so much excitement in this industry, and people that are in this industry are passionate about it, like the three of us. And, you know, you really have an opportunity to make a difference and impact in business and with connections through our industry. So hope that message gets out there. And I know ECA is doing some things, working, you know, with the legislature to try to get funding for training programs and other things like that that may not require a college degree to get into this industry. So Martha, anything to add? Anything from North American members? Well, let's focus on US in terms of anything creative people are doing to deal with the workforce issues and talent development that we have.
Yeah, it is such a critical point, Danica. And I do know that there are some show organizers who are actively involved in setting up programs at their local university level and in trying to attract that college level student who's not quite sure what he or she wants to do when they graduate. They're going in and they're providing guest lecturing services and things of that nature so that people will realize this is an industry. And I think that grassroots movement that's happening all across the country is really important. I think we'll see that increase. And some of the trade association groups that Kai just mentioned are establishing working groups around this as well. So I think when you put all of our really, really bright industry minds together, we'll come up with some good solutions. And I do think what UFI's doing, you know, the Next Generation Leader Program is an important way to bring visibility to the younger. I think Kai can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to be less than 10 years in the industry to be eligible for a Next Generation Leader program. Yeah, and it's open now. We're accepting nominations for it now. So please spread the word. If there's somebody in your organization that you think would really benefit from the visibility and the participation with UFI's program, please send in your nomination. I think that's a model to be copied around the world.
I'll be sure to include a link to that in our story so that people can find out more information and apply for it. As several people that we knew, one of our good friends won it last year, Elizabeth George. So we're going to do a shout out to Elizabeth there. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit of insight into this. I look forward to doing this on a monthly basis. And before we wrap up, though, I want to talk a little bit about what's ahead in the coming months. So give us just a quick preview of some of the things that you have on the agenda. Kai, what should we be looking out for? And then we'll go to Martha.
Well, next month, I think you will be talking to Mark Cochran, our regional director for Asia Pacific. And he can give you the main findings and main learnings from our Asia Pacific conference. That will be on in Macau in early March 7 and 8. And I look forward to being there with currently around 250 colleagues who have signed up. Let's see if we get it past 300 with lots of colleagues, predominantly from the Asia Pacific region, but also some from the rest of the world, meeting in Macau. The big story there will be around year 2 of the reopening in China, about the strong growth of India, about the role of Australia as an emerging business events destination, etc. So there's a lot on the table there, and Mark will talk you through that. Other regional events for UFI coming up for Middle East Africa in April in Kigali, Rwanda, and you will speak with Nadia. The European conference in June 11 to 13 in Zurich, Switzerland. And we're going to throw in a trip to Art Basel for those who are there, just to activate and give people an opportunity to see this really world-class art show. And we're running an event director summit on the side again for the portfolio directors and show directors of the leading organizers. So a lot of content, a lot of events coming up in the next month. And as we only want to talk about 20 minutes, I'll skip research, I'll skip education, I'll skip advocacy, other than a shout out to Legislative Action Day we wanted to do, I think, Martha.
Yeah, I'm excited to say that with the launch of the North American chapter, we are co-locating with the South and Central American chapter to produce the UFI Americas Conference. That'll be held in Monterrey, Mexico on September 10th through the 12th. And so that gives us the opportunity to work closely with Anna Maria. She's the regional director for South and Central America. And we've been working very closely on getting that together, and very proud to say that Fernando Fisher, the president of READ North America, will be our chair for that meeting. As you might know, he's originally a Brazilian event organizer. He worked for READ in Brazil, and he's moved to the US now. So he has a wonderful way of bridging between the North and South American chapters.
Excellent. Wow. I look forward to that. That's great to have him chair that. There is so much content that you have going on coming up. I'm especially excited to check in with you monthly, to go around the world, and then we'll come back and meet again with you, Martha, after we make our way around all the different regions of the world and hear about what's going on in those exhibition markets. So as I sign off on this Chiefs Parade Day, I should have said from the beginning, I thank you both for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you again next month.
Thanks, Danica. Enjoy the parade.
Thanks for having us, and go party.
Will do.